Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest album from Jason Eady called I Travel On. You know, I've said this a number of times before, but it bears repeating. If you're looking for about the purest expression of indie country, or hell, just country at all being produced in modern times, you pick up a Jason Eady album. The man has an uncanny ability to write songs where you're struck by how the hell nobody would have composed them before, as they seem so elemental and straightforward, saying so much with so little, with the sort of layered nuance and eye for detail that pushes his material to damn near transcendent territory. There's nothing gratuitous or indulgent or wasted with records like 2014's Daylight and Dark or 2017's self-titled release. He's released country music that rises to the very apex of the genre, some of my favorites of those respective years. But there has been two criticisms of his work, both of which I get, but neither of which bother me all that much. The first being that his songs can be a little bit too heavy and melancholy, which often leads to the follow-up that his work as a whole can feel a bit sedate and sleepy at points. Now, I disagree with both these points. The writing and compositions are tight and emotionally gripping enough that it's never really bothered me if they're a bit slow, and it's not like his records really run long, but Jason Eady has apparently taken those notes to heart, and it's led to a shift in the creation of his surprisingly quick follow-up project I Travel On, which if possible stripped things down even further. No overdubs, primarily acoustic, recruiting two ringers from bluegrass of all things, although Jason Eady has made it very clear that he would never call this a pure bluegrass album, showing the sort of respect and consideration for the art and genre that you rarely see anymore for any genre, but with more of a focus on quicker tempos and a feel as if everybody was in the same room for the recording. Now, on the one hand, I had no idea how much Jason Eady might be able to emphasize that even more. His records have always sounded incredibly intimate and organic in their production and presentation, and while I was a little bit shocked how quickly these songs emerged, I definitely wanted to hear them all as soon as possible. So, alright, what do we get on I Travel On? Well, this is a little bit strange. On the one hand, given that this is the fourth review of a Jason Eady record that I've made on this channel, you can all probably guess much of what I would otherwise say about it. It's a great record. Another example of Jason Eady comfortably knocking it out of the ballpark. Probably more comfortably than ever, which also leads me to a bit of a weird place. See, while this record, it's excellent, and I'm not sure I'd have a lot to say more about it overall that I haven't said before, the overall approach to composition and lyrics feels a little bit different this time around. Again, not bad, different, but I don't think it has the same weight or impact as earlier records. Which, yes, might be part of the point, but for me, doesn't quite resonate in the same way that, say, Daylight and Dark did. So let's start off with the change in composition, because it is surprisingly subtle if you're only giving Jason Eady a surface level listen. Sure, the first thing you might notice are that the tempos are a little bit quicker, and that Jason Eady mostly handles this shift pretty well in his delivery, or that the pedal steel has been swapped out for more banjo, dobro, some of the best fiddle pickup this side of Dave Cobb or Jason Eady's wife, Courtney Patton. And when you factor in how there's literally no production gimmickry to add to any of these mixes, it's hard not to wind up really impressed how well Courtney Patton's harmonies naturally accent Jason Eady's vocal line, or how the fiddles sound just ragged enough to flesh out the instrumental harmony with some of the acoustic guitars, or how the bass and percussion grooves, they're really subtle, really low-key, but unmistakable, they're always there, or how the entire album just has this rich, burnished warmth that is incredibly welcoming. Hell, it's probably the most openly upbeat and approachable album that Jason Eady has released since AM Country Heaven, but this time bringing the serious instrumental chops and sharp-as-hell songwriting that puts it in an entirely different weight class, even if it does feel pretty lightweight overall. And even then, this record still takes the time to add more melancholic balance and diversity. Always a Woman leans into more minor tones with a really striking melody line that I really loved, as does She Had to Run. Now or Never has probably the strongest bass groove you probably ever hear on a Jason Eady song, and Pretty When I Die is damn near a bluegrass crossover and a really strong one to boot. But it's here you'll also notice the biggest change in his compositional style, where the instrumental solos and the melodic development take more of a front seat instead of the lyrics. The solos, they're a lot more common and prevalent, and while Jason Eady is a good enough writer to get across his ideas effectively, the greater focus on the instrumentation gives the record a looser, more jam-driven vibe that lightens any sense of tension. And when you consider how generally upbeat this record will overall feel, it leaves cuts like That's Alright almost feeling like a bro country song in structure, if not in content. Now, while all of you get your socks that just blew off, let me heavily qualify that a bit, because Jason Eady is still the sort of songwriter that knows how to structure a thematically solid country album through and through. In this case, leaning into a growing acknowledgement of trying to make the right choices where he can, and thanking God whenever he's saved from the absolute worst when he can't control the results, or can't even pretend to understand how things have gone in this way. The quote that ran through my mind across a lot of this album is how the older that we get, the less that we truly know. And Jason Eady is both self-aware and humble enough to accept that he cannot know everything. Not deny his or anybody else's agency, but also be very conscious about what he can or cannot fix. And while songs like Happy Man show him content with his life as it is, and Pretty When I Die shows how he doesn't want to be that, accepting the time and consequences of his actions, he's not about to deny that when the situation gets truly bad, like on the abusive relationship between the lines of She Had to Run, not only was her choice difficult but necessary, but also shows him having to accept being a secondary figure in the story as she even runs from him. A nice subtextual touch emphasized by Courtney Patton's very well-placed backing vocals. Similar subtext creeps into Always a Woman, where not only is the angst of both men plain in their face of the stories they are telling and about their significant others, but also showing an impressive amount of ambiguity in what ultimately will pull both men back from the brink, be it good or ill in these women. But in both cases, the forward momentum, it never stops. And while on songs like The Climb, which is far better than what Miley Cyrus tried with the song of that title, it's never quite clear where the hell that destination might be. You just gotta take it in stride, like I'm below the waterline, and that's alright. The latter of which, again, almost feels like a bro country song in its list style and lighthearted picture of the good times that keep on rolling in, or at least ambiguously positive times, but it fits as a nice piece in contrast. It kind of fits within the record. And while there is some of that ambiguity, the album is nicely bookended by the acknowledgement that love is ultimately the cleanest picture of the endpoint, with the friends and family involved. And he just hopes he doesn't change too much in reaching it in the journey, that it doesn't feel the same when he winds up getting there, even if he'll stumble, lose his mind, or have to get a boost from a friendly hippie along the way. It's all for all a very upbeat, very friendly record, and I appreciate that. Now, does all this mean it has the same impact of songs like Daylight and Dark or Barabbas, or any of the quietly devastating road songs that Jason Eady has released in his career? Well, no, and it would be disingenuous to say otherwise. Again, it's a pretty lightweight album. A great listen, to be sure, and the technical acumen is ridiculously strong in terms of melody and construction, and I find it really hard to actively dislike anything here. I've seen some comments calling it music for its own sake, and I definitely agree with that, but there is a part of me that will inevitably compare this to Jason Eady's best, and I'm not quite sure it gets there. It might be that his voice is a slightly better fit for more reserved, downbeat, plain-spoken cuts, but that's me nitpicking a record that's too damn warm and genuinely fun to do so. So with that, solid 8 out of 10, absolutely recommended. Probably Jason Eady's easiest album to jump into, even if I'd argue that Daylight and Dark, the self-titled album, or even Something Together are a bit better in my books. But yeah, you're looking for something that's warm, enjoyable, it's a true country release, you can't do a lot better than this. So yeah, definitely check this out. You won't regret it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. Didn't really have a lot to say about this, but hey, it's the 4th time I'm reviewing Jason Eady, and he sticks to a pretty solid lane, and in that lane, you can't get much better. So if you want to buy the record, links down there below, and I got the poll up there. I'm curious for the people who have gotten into Jason Eady, where they see this record. I've seen a lot of people saying this is a really good jumping on board point, even though I'm not quite sure it resonates with me as much as his earlier work. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you guys want to get involved in my scheduling process or help support this channel, link to my Patreon is right over there, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher tier contributors, you guys get to add albums, movies, or even a top 10 list to that schedule. Link to the schedule is down there below. You want to know why I'm not covering Nicki Minaj right now? It's because not enough people voted for it on that schedule, so just keep that in mind. Again, it's my patrons who vote for things, so if you want to know why I'm not covering a record earlier, that's why. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time. I travel